Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. We have a good one today, starting off with the Tesla Supercharging Network expanding for more non-Teslas, now in Austria, Belgium, Spain, Sweden, and the UK using the Tesla app. And here's the full list of countries, and the non-Tesla Supercharger pilot is currently limited to EV drivers who live in these countries. And yes, non-Tesla owners will pay slightly higher rates, and this pilot is still only accessible for CCS-enabled vehicles. You've probably seen it by now, but Tesla AI Day number 2, mostly a recruiting event, will be August 19th, and Elon said to Dave Lee that yes, they will sneak preview the Tesla bot. Anyone's guess what this will look like. For me, if it can do anything more than walk and maybe pick something up, I think that would be pretty impressive. Our friend of the channel, Alexandra, shared this awesome chart highlighting the absurdity that Tesla's debt is still junk rated as they're still awaiting an investment grade rating. So go ahead and screenshot this if you'd like to analyze it. I'm just going to highlight Tesla. As you can see, slotted in at number 5. All of these metrics in the green: cash to debt, debt to equity, debt to EBITDA, debt to revenue, etc., and still the only one with the rating in the junk category. These companies are sorted top to bottom in order of market cap, and as I said, Tesla pure green across the board except for the rating, and there's plenty of yellow below Tesla, just highlighting all of these are weaker ratios when compared to Tesla. And what Elon said is true. Tesla doesn't need debt, so this investment grade or not rating doesn't really impact them. However, there are certain pension funds and other large funds that will only invest in companies with an investment grade rating. So once that happens, it will open up the market for more people to buy Tesla stock. Not a huge deal, but just something to be aware of, and the absurdity of this rating currently for Tesla. But if you guys want to talk absurdity, this one takes the cake. Now, some of you will know in videos past, I've said that ESG is oftentimes utter nonsense. In theory, it's great. It's meant to help people think about investing with a more ethical lens rather than just thinking about money. However, in practice, this movement is completely bogus for many reasons, but look at what just happened. The S&P 500 ESG index has been rebalanced, and you guessed it, Tesla has been removed. Now, this index basically tries to keep the weightings of the companies in the S&P 500 the same, but clean it up a little bit and have companies that are more focused on this ESG initiative: environmental, social, and governance. Environmental is easy, just think pollution, carbon strategies, sustainability. Then you have social, which we get into human rights and employee compensation. And finally, you have the G, or governance, and think of management and diversity of the workforce. And before getting into this, I want to be clear, there has been some good that's come out of this ESG movement. Some companies are really trying to be better, trying to donate money to good causes and do all of this ESG stuff. However, there's probably far more negative things going on, and you'll see very shortly. But one of the biggest and most glaring issues is that two companies that are doing the same ESG ratings will rate the same company, take Tesla for example, and give it totally different scores. So there's absolutely no standardization in the industry, and there's also plenty of fraud. So here we go. Tesla was ineligible for index inclusion due to its low ESG score, falling into the bottom 25% of its peers. So here's the S&P's rationale. Tesla's ESG score has remained stable year over year, but it was pushed further down the ranks relative to its global industry peers. Two factors contributing to this fall: a decline in criteria level scores for Tesla's lack of a low carbon strategy and codes of business conduct. Look at the footnotes for these two. Low carbon strategy criteria focus on companies' strategies to reduce the carbon intensity of its car portfolio, exactly Tesla's main mission, but also assess its current portfolio exposure to regulatory risks. Now, I'm not sure how regulation has an impact on being an ethical, sustainable type of a company, but that's what they're going with. And this codes of business conduct, talking about corruption, bribery cases, and anti-competitive practices. And lastly, a media and stakeholder analysis identified two separate events centered around claims of racial discrimination and poor working conditions at Fremont, as well as the way Tesla handled the NHTSA investigation after multiple deaths and injuries were linked to its autopilot vehicles. So look, like I said, the thrust of these principles are good, but we have to remember these claims about discrimination, they're still working their way through the courts, and they don't really give any detail on Tesla's handling of the NHTSA investigation, everything we know, Tesla has been open and transparent and willing to work with the regulators to get things done and to give them data that they need. But of course, my main problem here is it's taking a few small incidences and basically erasing all of what Tesla has done to push this ESG narrative forward. It's effectively who Tesla is as a company. And of course, people will argue and they're going to have incidents and things that happen. However, overall, as a company, I cannot find anyone else pushing forward these missions of doing the right thing and being good for the environment and all of that. No one's doing it better than Tesla. So if you've ever thought, I wish I was making healthier choices, Athletic Greens, the sponsor of today's video, has you covered. I have to thank Lex Friedman for the recommendation. Ever since I saw this, it's become a staple of my daily routine. Coming from a few years in the health and wellness industry, I can confidently say this is my favorite green drink of them all. AG1 is quick and easy. 1 scoop in 8 ounces of water and your superfood cocktail is ready to enjoy. Every serving of AG1 has 75 vitamins, minerals, and probiotics that when taken consistently can support gut health, energy, immunity, recovery, and focus. AG1 is also independently certified by NSF. And shout out to those of you that have messaged me saying you grabbed some AG1 and you've been enjoying it. I love to hear that. AG1 has also offered to provide a year supply of vitamin D3, K2, and 5 travel packs free of charge with every new purchase if you use my link in the description below. So if you'd like quick and easy support for your health, this is an excellent option. Believe it or not though, it actually gets much worse. These are the largest 10 constituents of the ESG index after this rebalance. You still have ExxonMobil and JP Morgan. Let's have a look. This is directly from the DOJ not long ago. JP Morgan agrees to pay almost $1 billion in connection with schemes to defraud precious metals and US Treasuries markets. So paying almost $1 billion for outright fraud, but nah, it's okay, it's still in the ESG index. And look at Exxon, not even talking about its impact that we know it's having negatively on the environment. How about its lobbying practices? What happened was Keith McCoy, Exxon's senior director for federal relations, he was tricked into doing this interview and he opened up when he shouldn't have, but what he said was true. He talked about working with shadow groups, supporting a carbon tax they believed would never happen, and influencing senators to weaken climate elements of Biden's infrastructure plan, ultimately all in their efforts to stop policies that could hurt Exxon's business. And after these ExxonMobil practices became public, they were effectively suspended from the Climate Leadership Council after people realized that Exxon's lobbyists told an undercover activist they only backed a carbon tax as a PR stunt. And we got some comments from Chamath talking about ESG investing being a complete fraud, and it's a lot of sizzle and no steak. He highlighted the problems. It's being used as a marketing ploy and a way for companies to get free money. If you paint yourself as ESG in Europe, you can essentially borrow money from the ECB at negative rates. JP Morgan, by saying what they said, will be able to borrow billions from the ECB at negative rates. It doesn't have to work what they're doing. They don't need to actually do anything. They're just getting free money from Europe for basically being able to say that they're doing all of these greenwashing things. The SEC has literally created a task force just to fight ESG fraud, and they haven't been around for that long, but they've already got some culprits. Just this year, the task force filed the first complaint against the Brazilian mining company, yes, Vale, for allegedly presenting fraudulent information to investors regarding the safety of its dams. The SEC has said that Vale misrepresented the safety of its dams before this collapse in 2019 that ultimately killed 270 people, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. And why is there so much fraud in this space? Well, ESG-driven investment is estimated at greater than $35 trillion in AUM, and on track to exceed 53 trillion in just the next few years. And Influence Map did a report on this very topic and concluded more than 70% of the funds with broader ESG goals are actually misaligned with the global climate targets. And lastly, look at the scores given by MSCI, one of the organizations that effectively gives some of these ESG scores. Looking at JP Morgan, MSCI ESG rating of an A. Shell, yes, the oil and gas conglomerate, has a rating of AA. And Tesla, the company trying to do the right thing, spearheading the sustainability movement, taking all of the risk, trying to make the world a safer place, all of these things with a very diverse workforce. By the way, look at its report, it just released last year, but it has an ESG rating of an A, on par with JP Morgan, the company that has done many terrible things. So I thought today was a good a time as ever to highlight some of the fraud and corruption around this ESG movement. So please just be aware of it. Now, when it comes to impact on Tesla stock, nothing major. However, now that it's not in this index, it could be put back in next year when they do this rebalancing. And there are things like the S&P 500 ESG ETF with almost $1 billion in AUM that won't be tracking Tesla stock because it's no longer in the index. However, nothing major. Okay, now we're going to shift gears to a more uplifting, exciting topic. Tesla is starting customer deliveries, not employee deliveries, from Giga Austin with 4680s and the structural pack of this new secret standard range vehicle, around 279 miles of range at $60,000. People in Austin are now getting this email from Tesla that have been waiting for their car, saying that they can take delivery a little bit sooner if they accept one of these lower range vehicles. Now, if you look at the options, you can see they do have the 279 miles of range, but there is one 269, and the difference will be the choice of wheel. Here's the email from Tesla. You have the opportunity to experience our latest configuration and take delivery within weeks. Select Model Y all-wheel drive and experience one of the first vehicles built at Giga Texas, currently only available in the area. Go anywhere up to 279 miles of range on a charge and accelerate 0 to 60 in 5 seconds. So this is basically a soft launch of this vehicle. It's not currently available on the main Tesla configurator page. It's only being offered to people who are already in line waiting for their Model Y delivery. And it's still unclear how many are actually available in this new set of inventory. Now, there are plenty of people out there saying this isn't really that good of a deal because it's only $2,000 or $3,000 cheaper than the long range version, and you're gonna get 40 miles less range. However, you have to remember, these people would be getting their vehicle in a few weeks instead of having to wait until November or February of next year. And even the performance model is going to be a few months, not a few weeks. So if people really want their delivery sooner, this could be a great option. What a lot of people, including myself, want to know is what does the charging curve look like with this new battery pack? That's going to be the money question for me. Now, no, this shouldn't be LFP, meaning you can't just charge to 100% whenever you want, because this should be a nickel cobalt aluminum or a nickel cobalt manganese type chemistry. However, with the 4680s and the structural pack, this charging curve will most likely be different. And one of my most important messages for Tesla investors, don't base your 4680 expectations or how capable these cells will be on these new metrics for this current standard range version. Remember, Tesla is still working through the chemistries, developing these 4680s, making iterations, and they're going to be using the fewest number of cells possible to make the most vehicles possible right now, given the supply constraint and the overwhelming demand. For whatever it's worth, I'm personally holding off my 4680 judgment when it comes to capability into 2023. Once they have production ramped up, they have chemistries better nailed down, and we can get a better idea of what these things are really capable of and how many they're putting in the packs, etc. And the main takeaway, customer deliveries of 4680 structural pack cars out of Giga Austin taking place. This is a huge milestone, so congratulations to the Tesla team. This is a really big deal for the future of Tesla. And some more good news for many of you out there. Auto steer maximum speed limit has been bumped to 85 miles per hour from 80 previously. And here it is in the release notes, 2022.12.3.4, autopilot maximum speed increased from 80 to 85. To those wondering why, well, this is just one reason why. And China is in talks with automakers about extending these subsidies for EVs that were supposed to expire this year. However, in terms of this extension for 2023, no details have been finalized. And lastly, some of the footage that these Project Veritas reporters are gathering from people inside of Twitter and executives is pretty shocking and disheartening. If you haven't seen it, I will link it below. That's gonna do it for today. Please take a second to like the video if you did. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.